Hey guys, I'm Mobdot and I'm here to showcase an early build of a 2K-like multiplayer basketball game that I'm developing called Project BallHard. I've been working on this project over the years on and off, and I think it's at a decent spot to show off a bit, as well as talk about my inspirations for starting the development of the game and other tidbits. So without further ado, let's get into it. The reason I started working on this game is because I was an avid basketball video game player, so I played my fair share of 2K, a game we all know and love to hate at times. But I also played a lot more of a lesser known multiplayer game called Freestyle Basketball 2. And while playing both of these games, I noticed things that I liked and didn't like gameplay wise. The various things ranged from shooting to screening, or maybe at times defense wasn't fun to play, but the thing that I hated the most about both of these games was the predatory pay-to-win practices. Both games were almost unenjoyable because of that. And though the pay to win was really bad with Freestyle, at least you can kinda cut them some slack because it's free to play. But 2K, a full retail price game, with having editions of the game that can be $100+ should not be stooping this low with how pushed purchasing VC is and how much in-game purchases directly affects gameplay. And I hope with the release of 2K26, they dial down on the pay-to-win aspects of the game, because from what I've heard, though I don't play 2K anymore, outside of getting footage for this video, gameplay-wise, it seems promising, and I hope the business aspects of the game doesn't get in the way of the gameplay, but I digress. But basically, I was tired of the pay-to-win aspects of those games, so I decided to start this project that I've been working on and off for a while now. Let's get into gameplay. Here I wanted the game to feel good, and that's mostly through movement and animation. And it seems like a simple or childish metric, but with sports games that can make or break your game. For example, NBA Live basically died because they could never figure out how to make movement feel smooth and animations transition seamlessly. My solution was to make my movement system a hybrid between root motion and physics motion. And I'm not saying this is the clear-cut way to do things or that it's perfected right now, but I think it's a good starting point. For a quick definition, root motion is when a player's movement is determined by the animation. So with 2K, when you're walking, you're actually not telling the player to move, you're telling the player to use the run animation, and the spacing of the run or walk animation determines where you move, same with layups, dunks, etc, etc. This can be a smooth way to move your character, but sometimes the animation overrides what your intention was. For example, if you're on the right corner going for a 3, and you only want to move back a little bit for a dribble move, but because of the animation you end up going out of bounds when you only want it to move a specific amount. And with root animation, you can get that a lot. And that's why when things like that does happen, people often blame 2K and start cussing out Ronnie. So I knew going in, I only wanted to use root motion for shooting animations, so the animations look smooth, but not for the actual player movement when it comes to traversing the court. So a player can feel like they have full control over their character. Now I'll get into the actual gameplay mechanics and controls. The shooting is pretty simple. I have a charge value that goes up as you hold down the button, and using the built-in Unity UI system, I tied a progress bar to it. And depending on if you are pointing the joystick a certain direction, you'll get a different shot type. For now, pressing down on the joystick will give you a fade, and tapping the button will perform a pump fake, and you can't move if you already dribble. As for layups, I have a hitbox near the goal called the layup zone, that if you enter it, you'll perform a push shot if you're standing still, and a layup if you're moving. To launch the ball, I'm using Vulcan's kinematic equation that I'll put a link to in the description if you want to read through the documentation. But essentially, this equation determines the trajectory of the ball to reach the endpoint, which will be determined based on how well you time your shot, giving you better odds of scoring. The game also has a small dribble combo package as well that requires timing to chain dribble moves using animation events to start and end the window of where you can input a new direction. Eventually, I'll add more dribble directions and snatchbacks and other face-up moves, but for now, this is fine. And as far as the controls, this game is made with controller being the primary control scheme, so I just used the built-in Unity input support, and I have my own script that manages the control. The camera, I tried to tune it to split the difference between tracking the player and the ball if the ball is loose, and on offense split between the player and the goal, but also giving it an angle that's similar to the 2K camera setting I had back when I played. That's pretty much the basics of one-on-one offense, but let me know if y'all want a deeper dive of the coding, as I don't talk too much about the technical aspects in this video. Let's go over the animation and modeling process a bit. I used Blender and made every animation and model myself, Looking back, if I really wanted to speed up the process, I would just use Mixamo for animations, and maybe the generic dummy model as well, especially before game dev. I didn't really have a background in art. But I just wanted to try animation and modeling for myself. I've been animating for a while, and I wanted to develop my skill set. By no means is it perfect or even good, but I should be showcasing some old animations and models versus my new stuff, and you can see quite a difference. But if you are wanting to get into animation and modeling, there's plenty of tutorials out there, but one thing I can say for sure is use references. It changed my animation and modeling workflow completely. I'll go out of my way to look at basketball drills and clip movements I'm trying to get, or even load up 2K to get the references straight from the chat, because that's how important and that much of a difference it makes to use one for posing your player. Also, another thing, if you are going to use Blender and make your own animations, use the Rigify add-on. It saves a lot of time by giving you rigged up armatures with FK and IK controls, and you don't have to go through the trial and error of making your own. And I know when I used it, animations took a step up for sure. Now let's go over how I animated dribbling and shooting. I added an extra bone to the rig/skeleton under the root bone in the armature called the ball holder. That bone determines where the ball goes. I have a ball in Blender that just helps me visualize the movement of the bone, but the bone itself is what I'm keyframing. And once I'm done animating, I import the animation into Unity and place it in the animation controller. So now when the player picks up the ball, I tell the game to make the ball follow the ball holder bone. Now as far as the in-engine animation, when you're in game, an important piece to it is making sure that the transition between animations is smooth. To do this, generally I set my player actions to different animation layers in Unity. And you'll notice that my animation controller is set up a bit differently than what you'd probably see. Normally, you'd probably see a web of arrows connected to animations, but I prefer to manually call my animations through script, and then use an animation layer weight script to have smooth animation transitions even if they are not in the same layer, by slowly giving the active layer a full weight value to get that smoothness. In fast-paced games like this, you need to be able to get from a walking animation into a jump shot as smooth as possible. As far as the art style, this is still an early build, so things are definitely subject to change, but I know I want a light-hearted cartoony look to the game, so this style that I have for now is a step in that direction. So as far as seeing where this game goes, what this game ultimately will turn into is a full-fledged free-to-play multiplayer basketball game with RPG elements, with the ability to customize your character's appearance and your character's build/play styles. With the focus being that I want to push a playstyle fantasy where you can truly develop a player that suits your style to a T, rather than a power fantasy where the more VC or microtransactions you pump into a character determines the outcome of a game. I feel like in video games, the most satisfying feeling in competitive multiplayer games is beating your opponent when you're all on the same playing field, and what determines the outcome of the game is outskilling your opponent. And if I can replicate that feeling every game for the player, this game can be something special. And on the monetary side, I would want to be consumer friendly as much as possible, making sure the player doesn't have to feel like they have to whale out in order to make progress in the game, or pay money in order to feel competitive and feel like they have a chance to win any game. But again, that's hope for what this game can be. The game is still really early levels of development, so let's talk about the next steps and more immediate things. So things that are right around the corner and I've started working on, I don't know if you can see, but on the top right corner of the game I have a start server and a client button, which shows I've already started netcoding, and the next video should be showcasing one-on-one multiplayer gameplay after I refactor the code base and fix a couple of bugs. After that, we'll be working up to 5-on-5 implementation and reworking the existing gameplay mechanics that are already in the game and revamping defense, and then we'll go from there. But that'll be it for now. Let me know if you guys want a more technical video. Again, I know I didn't talk too much about the coding or super complex engine things, but let me know if that's something y'all want. And thank you for tapping in with me. And with that, mob out.